Hi, Barb. I hear it's another 10 minutes with Barb and Ron today.
It is. It feels like it's been forever.
Boy, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh.
Well, I hear you've got a great topic, so I'll introduce myself first for those that maybe have just tuned in and they haven't been with us before. I'm Ron Rogers, and it's really good to be with everyone. I work for OCALI, and we're all about universal design for learning and other conversations that come up.
Great. I'm Barb Green, also a UDL lover, and I work for Centerburg Local Schools as a special ed federal programs director. And so it's just good to be here.
It's a nice, beautiful, sunny day.
Yes, it is.
And it's warm. So I hear you kind of want to continue a conversation.
Yes. I've been thinking about it ever since we taped our Inspire Ed session, and we'll have to put a link for folks to that on the OCALI website. But we had a very great conversation with our colleague, Julie Frankel, about this intersection between universal design for learning and explicit instruction. And so I just thought, I've been thinking about it ever since we did it and since we got the reviews, and I just kind of wanted to keep talking about it. So yeah, what do you think of that?
I think it's a great idea. I also know that there's always, those are 30 minutes, and 30 minutes, perfect. It's just perfect to give someone a taste of something and how something kind of meshes together. For some though, it's tough to only do 30 minutes, So
Yes.
As we're having this conversation, I kind of want to wrap around the fact that 30 minutes is perfect. It's okay to just get bite-sized information.
Yeah. And even smaller bite size on 10 minutes, right? With Barb and Ron.
Yeah, it's not even a mouthful.
Oh, that's great. Well, just to frame it, explicit instruction, the way that we were talking about it in our Inspire Ed, is really the explicit instruction as explained by Anita Archer. So first and foremost, if people want to dig deep into the topic, I would go to anything Anita Archer and watch tapes or get her book on explicit instruction. And one of the things that's just been niggling at me a little bit, I don't know if that's a word, but I was talking to somebody else the other day who thought, they're just two very distinct things, and UDL just doesn't fit sometimes. And so I thought we could talk a little bit about, when it fits and how it might be different a little bit from explicit instruction. So sound all right?
I think that sounds perfect. I really do. I think that just sounds really good. And you know what? With that, I was thinking about a couple things. When you know what? Our eyes are always bigger than our stomachs, right? So if we buy a double large pizza for 2 people and we expect the other one to eat most of it and you just have a slice, what's going to happen to that other person?
It's going to be a little miserable, I think.
They're going to be stuffed, and they may not want pizza again for a long time. So I kind of think about that when I think about information, especially new information, like thinking about how explicit instruction and universal design for learning go together. If we pack too much into the conversation or too much into the information, people leave kind of sick because they're overwhelmed and they're too full and they don't want to go back because it's painful, So we just want to give them a little teeny bit to make them hungry, We don't want to satisfy the hunger. We want them to go out and look things up on their own. And that's what you just alluded to.
That is a perfect story for that idea, Ron. That is just perfect. I know we've been working on our storytelling, trying to, bring that in. So so I got to think of that just right little piece of information. So I'm going to give an example maybe of, sometimes I think literacy folks, I think that, we in the UDL world are saying no explicit instruction. And I believe that literacy is one of those places where explicit instruction is so powerful. So let's take a young child coming into, first grade, and they're starting to put some sounds together with letters, and maybe they're blending some of those sounds together. and they're figuring out words. That happens because a teacher has been very planful, very strategic in how they introduce those letters and how they introduce those sounds. And so explicit instruction is perfect for that situation. And so where I see UDL could come in is, let's say that they have been working on a phonics lesson with some certain vowel sounds, so to speak, and they've gone through that explicit lesson. The student is really grabbing hold of those letter sound correspondences, and now it's time to grab a decodable text, a decodable book for practice. So here's where UDL can come in. Say, okay, kiddo, your choice. Here's 10 books that have these letters and sounds we've been working on. Go grab up one of them that you want to read and talk to me about. So it's a very small way that we can bring choice in to a situation where explicit instruction is so powerful. What do you think?
I totally agree. I think choice is important, and it makes me think back. It makes me think back, and I don't know why, but this sentence keeps running through my head. Run, Jane, run. Now say that backwards, Ron. Run, Jane, run. You know, we had those books when we were in first grade, and we didn't have any choice back then when I was young. So, you know,
Right.
I think that's a great idea, you know, choice, and that is so much universal design for learning and everything, you know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another
powerful.
piece that we talked about, it is, yeah. Another piece we talked about with Julie is this idea of background knowledge. And that sometimes when a person doesn't have any background knowledge, it's a great place to introduce explicit instruction. But I also think that we can do that in a variety of ways. And that's where UDL comes in. So let's say we're going to be ready to talk about a war in history. We're in social studies class and we're talking about a war. And we're trying to figure out what are all the causes that led up to that war. And I saw this in a social studies class, and this teacher is just phenomenal at Crestview Middle School in Ohio. And all he did was simply show a few video clips about some things that were happening prior to that war, and then ask open-ended questions to kids to say, okay, you know, what did you see? What do you hear? What questions do you have? And really got them engaged. And through that conversation, built that background knowledge. So again, that is one way that UDL could have done that. And another way a teacher might have chosen to spend a little mini lesson with that explicit instruction where they were really, doing maybe a mini lecture on that and having the students then engage and talk about it and process it. So, I just can't see them apart. And I hope that the more we can talk about UDL and explicit instruction, that folks will see that blending and how so powerful it can be when we have both frameworks in place.
You're so right. You're absolutely right on. And I think I love the way the teacher built the background knowledge, because nothing's worse than getting ready to do something and not have a clue or any connections, or just go into it blindly. It doesn't hold a person's interest at all. So we have 2 minutes left, Barb. 2 minutes. Man, 10 minutes goes fast, doesn't it?
It does. Bite-sized information, like you said. So I guess I would just like to encourage folks to think about going and doing a little more research on both of the frameworks. And remember that the goal of UDL is to help the learner figure out what works for them when they are engaging in learning. Barb is out.
Oh, I'm just going to say 2 words. Expert learner. Ron's out.
See you next time.
YouTube, please subscribe. Like, comment, and share.